It's Riding Sidesaddle. We're back.
Hi, everyone.
It's Tammy.
And Lisa. And
we have a guest.
Ooh, so
We're very excited about this.
This is our first guest as part of Riding Sidesaddle. And we had talked about it in our Facebook post already. Earlier this week, we were talking about, guess what? Hormones is coming up.
Yay, and periods.
And periods. So buckle in, because we're going to have a great conversation. So I wanted to introduce a fast friend of mine named Pam Jankowski. And
Hello.
I had been introduced to her just as it relates to the wellness community in Sheboygan. It's something important to me and important to our family. And I met Pam probably last fall, I think, around there.
So.
Yeah. So I won't do you justice. So please introduce yourself and what you do for the community here.
Well, hi, everyone. I am Pam Jankowski. I am a wife and a mother, and I've been menstruating for 30 years.
You should get a gold star.
30 gold stars.
God, you should get a gold star every month.
I am a menstrual educator, and I am a fertility awareness instructor. And I do that through Sisterwell Incorporated in Sheboygan. And at Sisterwell, we empower women to make healthy choices for themselves through education and assistance. And right now we're focusing on menstrual health and ending local period poverty. So,
Period poverty. What is that?
1 in 4 menstruators cannot afford period products.
Oh my gosh.
1 in 4.
I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Me either.
People miss work, people miss school because they don't have adequate care for themselves on a daily basis. So we're trying to help that. Since June, we've given away 1,200 menstrual cycles worth of products to people in our community.
Fabulous. Well done.
Just in Sheboygan County.
Just in Sheboygan, the city.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Not even the whole county, just the city of Sheboygan.
Correct.
Wow.
And one of the big parts of all of this is teaching people about their menstrual cycles. And I just want to say, before we even get started, that not all women menstruate, and not all menstruators are women, and we all know that, and we accept that, but we may talk about women tonight. Just know that we are also including anyone with a uterus who menstruates. Okay?
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So we had asked Pam to join us as our very first guest speaker to talk about a few things, really. But the core foundation of this is to get a better understanding of what the menstrual cycle looks like from beginning to end. And really, it's a month-long cycle, right? It isn't just that period of time when you are truly bleeding.
Correct.
So I'll be very honest in that I'm coming up on 49 years old, and I don't understand or know the cycle of hormones that take place on a monthly basis and the ebbs and flows and what impacts it has. So I personally am just very excited to learn more about it.
Yeah. It's amazing how little people know about their own bodies, right? We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, we were. It was, I think when it first, it didn't occur to me because I'm learning nothing occurs to me. It always has to be pointed out. It was something on Facebook. It was a meme or something. Not a meme.
Just a post.
I don't know, a post, yeah. And it was on day 1 through 3, this is the hormone that is doing this. And on day 4 through this is the hormone that's doing that. And it went through the whole month. That was the first time it really occurred to me. I mean, I know I've been menstruating longer than both of you. I know obviously I know what a period is, and I can tell when I'm ovulating.
Yeah.
But that's it. I didn't know that the rest of the month, all of these other things were happening. So when Lisa and I were talking about let's put Riding Sidesaddle together, that was one of the things that was really important to both of us. Is let's learn from somebody who knows, not just off of a post on Facebook, but somebody who really knows how all of these pieces fit together, month after month after month.
And I think, I don't even know when to ovulate because I'm not that sensitive to be able to feel that. However, like I know the symptoms of, PMS. I don't necessarily know what causes that when I get, more quickly frustrated or irritable when my boobs start to hurt like insanely or, I become more weepy than traditional. So I have no idea what causes it. I just know that it happens, right? And I know, how close is this? Oh, that makes sense. And I know what's coming next. Right?
I don't think I have PMS. Josh says I do.
Sometimes
But
it's
I
more
don't think
clear
I
to
do.
the people around us.
Again, I have no awareness. So what do I know?
But congratulations for knowing when you ovulate. That's something that very few people can do.
Is that right?
Very few people know how to do. And I'm going to teach you guys how to know for sure.
I love that. Share. Please share. Yeah.
So the first thing, we're going to do a whole shift in consciousness around periods tonight. The first thing I want to introduce to you guys is that the period is not the star of the show.
Oh.
The star of the show is ovulation.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
And
It's the main event.
Yes. If you do not ovulate, you do not have a period.
Okay.
If you bleed, it's because it's a breakthrough bleed or something else. It's not an actual period. So, I'm sorry.
Please go ahead. I'm sorry. I have things just connect in the moment. I'll save it though.
Okay. So a lot of people believe that the first day of their cycle begins after their period ends. That period is the end of the cycle because that's what they think their body wants to do, is to have a period. But what your body actually wants to do is get pregnant, and it can't do that without ovulation. So the first day of your period is actually the first day of your cycle.
So that's why when you're at the doctor's office, they ask you the first day of your last menstrual period.
Yes.
Not the last day.
Right.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
And we're like, whew, thank God that's over for another month. So then we mark it like mentally, like, okay, that's over. Let's start another cycle.
But the cycle has already started
Yeah.
when you are bleeding.
Yeah.
Because what is happening to begin the cycle starts in your brain, not in your reproductive system.
What the heck?
I know. I'm a little speechless.
I thought it started in your ovaries, like your ovaries signal, I don't know, estrogen to release, or whatever the hormone is, to release your egg. I had no idea it started in your brain.
There's a hormone that starts to kick in before estrogen kicks in. And that comes from the brain.
Crying out loud. I am 51 years old. How do I not know this?
And it comes from the pituitary gland in your brain. And you may have heard of the pituitary. That's what
Right.
regulates a lot of hormone production in
Yes.
your body.
Yes.
But we kind of forget that hormones are the messenger for almost every single process in our body. So the pituitary gland, which starts our menstrual cycle, it does so many other things. It regulates our response to stress and trauma, and it stabilizes our moods and behavior. It tells our body when to grow, when to stop growing. It helps with our metabolism.
So when you're short, like 5'1" and 3/4, do you have an under-functioning pituitary when you were younger?
No, not under functioning, just individual to you.
Right.
Okay, all
That
right.
was what you were meant
I've always
to
wanted
be.
to be at least 2 inches taller. It's so hard to reach things when you're this short. I needed
There's
a
nothing
boost
wrong
of
with you.
pituitary something.
You're just unique. There's nothing wrong with you.
No, it's not wrong. It's just inconvenient. I have to get a step stool for everything.
Oh, man. So the pituitary also handles all kinds of things like the reproductive system. And the pituitary is connected to another part of your brain called the hypothalamus.
Is that like the core? I have heard of the hypothalamus before, and it's really the very basic part of your brain. Is that true?
The hypothalamus is the part of your brain that creates homeostasis in your body.
So health,
yes,
right?
yeah, it makes
Homeostasis is
everything
health.
balance.
Okay.
So the hypothalamus regulates your body temperature, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, whether you're hungry or thirsty, whether you feel full or not. And it also impacts your sex drive, your libido, and your quality of sleep. So where your period begins, where your menstrual cycle begins, is where a lot of things begin in your brain. And in order to follow the ups and downs of the hormones that happen during your menstrual cycle, you have to know how healthy your brain is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Continue. I'm just clawing for more.
So the very first hormone that is produced by the pituitary is called the follicle stimulating hormone. We call it FSH for short. And what that does is it triggers your ovaries to start growing follicles, and inside each follicle is an egg. And every single month, several are recruited and start to grow, and then your body chooses the winner. And whatever one is growing fastest and biggest, that's the one it keeps.
Wow.
The others are recycled back into the body.
So I have a quick question, and this may be unrelated, and you can tell me that. So I understood that as a female, I have a certain number of eggs when I'm born. And that number of eggs, like that's predetermined. They're already there, and that does not change. Are you saying that through this hormonal action, that like how does the what'd you say,
FSH?
Thank you. How does that does it?
More eggs are used every cycle than just one.
That's what I was trying to get to.
But there's another myth in there. One of the myths that is very commonly believed is that we are born with a set number of eggs.
Yeah.
The wording is not quite right.
Okay.
We are born with a set number of stem cells in our ovaries that can turn into eggs or can turn into other things if needed.
Interesting.
I had
Thank
no
you.
idea.
Me either.
I did know that it is possible to change the quality of your eggs, but I thought the eggs were the eggs.
Well, they are stem cells,
Yeah.
which need a particular type of nutrition to turn into a particular type
Gotcha.
of
A quality of egg,
quality of
viable
egg. Correct.
egg.
Correct. So, okay, so that's FSH. We got a whole bunch of eggs growing. One starts to take dominance. And as that egg gets bigger and bigger, our estrogen levels are increase right along with the size of that egg. And so that estrogen level increases from your ovary and it affects everything in your body. It's another hormone. It's another messenger. So when our estrogen increases, it also increases our blood volume. It increases our hair growth. It increases our skin health. It increases our breast tissue health. So estrogen is required in order for a lot of other body functions. But the main source of it during our menstrual cycle is from that egg growing in our ovary.
That's so interesting.
When that,
So you were talking about like it changes your skin and your hair and things like that. That almost sounds like when you're pregnant, your skin is great, your hair is beautiful, things like that. So
Nails
the estrogen
grow really fast.
Right. So the estrogen is preparing your body for a pregnancy.
Yes.
Oh.
They call estrogen the maiden hormone. It makes you feel young and vibrant. And
Makes you want to
creative.
have sex.
Yes,
does.
lustful. Yes, it makes you.
Hey.
You
Hubba,
feel
hubba.
more attractive, and you are more attracted to others during
Yeah.
this time. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's why I know I'm ovulating.
Right. Hey.
Well, ovulation happens when estrogen starts to take a nosedive.
Oh.
Well, then I don't know when I'm ovulating.
You might, because estrogen, as it's rising, it increases cervical mucus. That is one of the number one ways that women can tell
Yes.
that they are about to ovulate.
Yes.
Is that when they wipe after
Yeah.
using the restroom, it feels slimy.
Right. That I do know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on down there.
there's a lot of stuff that goes down there.
Since the hormones are like a domino cascade, I find it very fascinating. One has to hit a certain level before the next one even starts.
Oh.
So once estrogen gets to a certain level, then the brain is triggered to say, okay, the egg is big enough. Let's let it go. Let's ovulate. And the brain inside the pituitary releases LH, luteinizing hormone. In men, that is what creates sperm and testosterone. But for women, LH is what thins the walls of the ovary so that the egg can be released.
I am so fascinated by this. I have never heard of these things ever in my life. I've heard of estrogen. I have not heard of LH. I have not heard of,
FSH.
thank you,
Yeah.
that one. It's amazing to me that this is not common knowledge to a degree.
Well, why would you need to know what's happening in your own body, Lisa? You expect way too much from Good grief.
I do this every single month.
Overthinker.
Of my, I have so many gold stars, and I didn't even know why I got these gold stars. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
So here we have gone through 2 phases of the cycle. There are 3 phases of the cycle. So the first one was follicular, where the follicle was growing, the eggs were growing. Second one is ovulatory. So the follicular phase, when an egg is growing, FSH kicks in to recruit all the eggs, right? And then as an egg grows, estrogen is produced. That normally takes 7 to 21 days. But it's all affected by your brain health. So if your brain is healthy, it will take a certain number of days, and that should be about equal every single month. If your brain is still developing, like you're a teenager, then that can take longer. So teenager, the follicular phase, can last up to 35 days. However, the ovulatory phase, when that egg is released from the ovary, that only lasts 24 hours, 1 day. But we consider it a whole phase because if you don't ovulate, you don't have a period. If you don't ovulate, you can't get pregnant. Ovulation is the star of the show.
Yeah.
After that egg is released, the follicle that egg had been growing in starts to decay and our body starts to recycle it. Our bodies are amazing recycling machines. It starts to recycle that empty follicle, and while it's recycling, it's producing progesterone. Progesterone is exactly what we need to stabilize our mood. We start to slow down. Estrogen has taken a nosedive after ovulation, and now progesterone starts to grow because it's being produced by that empty follicle. Progesterone, just like estrogen was the maiden hormone, progesterone is the crone hormone. So it makes us slow down. We're a lot more introverted. We do a lot more thinking. This is when we get the hard work done. We're not frivolous. We just get down to business. And that's usually the time that we need to slow down in our lives too. That's the time when you take baths, when you read a book. You don't go out to a party. You just relax. Because your body is slowing down. That progesterone slows everything down.
I had no idea.
I have to pay more attention to that because I had no idea either. I probably do those things, but I never equated it to the cycle of my hormones.
I just thought I had a hard day or a long week or it's been a stressful time.
Really tired. I just need to rest.
Yeah, I didn't sleep well, so I just need to stay home today.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was also... I mean, I'm sure those are factors too. Those are outside stimulants, right? Or outside factors. But I had no idea that that was happening in my body, which may cause me to make a decision. Like, it's been a stressful week. I should stay home.
Yeah, save the parties for the beginning of the cycle. Save the big presentations for the beginning of the cycle when you need to be more extroverted.
On top of it and creative and so interesting.
So the next time your boss wants you to give a presentation, you have to say, let me check my cycle.
Yeah.
Not my schedule, my cycle.
I'm in my luteal phase. I can't do that.
Definitely no.
You're really going to want to wait till I have more estrogen for me to do that. It'll be a home run if you wait for more estrogen.
That is such a brilliant idea. Then probably they'll be like, never mind.
On second thought, you should not
take a couple days off. Okay. That fits the progesterone portion. I'll do just that.
Well, this luteal phase, we can kind of predict when we're going to have our period after we get through the luteal phase, because it takes the same amount of time for that follicle to be recycled in the body every single month. So after ovulation, the brain isn't involved anymore. It's just the ovary. So we know that that's going to take between 9 and 16 days until you get your period. And then once your period starts, that's day 1 of your next cycle. So between the follicular phase, the ovulation, and then the luteal phase, the average cycle takes between 21 and 35 days. And everyone is told that it takes 28 days.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's really what's normal for your body. Because that first phase, the follicular phase, because it's controlled by the brain, if you have extra stress, if you are not sleeping very well, if you're not eating very well, if you didn't get the exercise in that you normally do, or you've been exercising too much, that can all affect how long the follicular phase of your cycle lasts and whether you ovulate. Because the brain is very easy to take care of, believe it or not. And we don't. We abuse our brains more than we abuse any other part of our body.
So let's talk more about that, right? Because even just the concept of brain health equals menstrual health, that was not a connection for me. Like I just simply did not know and would never have really connected. To your point, Tammy, like it starts in the ovaries, right?
Yeah, I thought it did.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm freaking out just a little bit as you're talking about that because not my last cycle, the one before that, it came, and I know that I'm older, I'm 51. Things are changing. I get that. It came 9 days early, according to my app that I use to track these things. 1 week after it ended, my next period started. And now you're talking about how brain health is responsible for a healthy cycle. That is not normal. It's not even normal for me. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do I have like something in my brain that I need to have looked at? I mean, it hasn't happened again, but, and I don't remember was I under more stress at that time? Was there some other factor that I maybe could chalk it up to? But brain health equals a healthy menstrual cycle. That was not healthy for me.
Right. And I would be interested, I would love to recommend that everyone starts tracking their cycles, and not just whether you're noticing cervical mucus or whether you're bleeding and how heavy it was, but also how much stress you were under, or if you really had a rough time sleeping, neighbor's dog was barking all night, didn't get to sleep, or I was running around all day and all I ate was fried food that day for an entire day or for 2 days. Or I traveled and I was sleeping in a bed other than my own, or the time zone change, and I had a hard time with that.
Some trauma happened, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm full of anxiety and I can't fall asleep, or I wake up in the middle of the night because I have this stupid presentation coming up,
Right.
and I'm nervous
I don't
about
have
it.
enough estrogen to get me through.
All of that should be
Wow.
marked down because it all
No
plays
idea.
a part.
I think I need to
I
use
track my period and that's it.
Me
I
too.
don't track anything else.
Me too. I think I have to use my diary in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But that,
Okay, I'm going to stop saying it. I was going to say, well, how did I get to be 51 years old and not know this? But I'm going to stop saying it.
Well, it's not a social standard, right? You push and push and push, and you get the job done, and you make it happen. You don't think about and you don't have introspection around, well, how did I feel? What was happening during that day? Even to the degree of, what
did
level
I
of
eat?
mucus did
Or
I
that.
have when I wiped?
Well, sure, but even, I remember in health class, they taught us, you have to track your periods. My mom told me, keep track of your periods. My doctor said, keep track of your periods. Nobody said, keep track of what you're eating, keep track of your moods, keep track of your stress. Are you traveling? Nobody ever said to keep track of life.
Right.
Essentially.
right. Because you go.
I had no idea that that was part of it. Golly.
but your period tells you when something is off. So you had a period very shortly after a different period. So by tracking it, you know that there's something off, and you're
Right.
able to start paying closer attention to anything that might have been occurring during that time.
Now I know that, but prior
Yeah.
to this conversation, I did not know that. I have not been tracking what's been different.
Yeah.
This just happened last month. It is not. I don't
Now you
remember
know.
what happened.
Look at you,
I know.
51, and you're becoming a brand new woman.
Golly.
Jeez.
I'm
Just
so
in
proud
time
of
to be
you.
dried up. Great.
We'll talk more about that.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
So let's talk more about the brain health piece, though, because yes, I understand we should get into a practice of tracking things, but I'm very curious about that brain connection. What can we do to support our brain so that the hormone cycle goes in the most ideal way?
So I think that is really important to talk about self-care and nutrition and things like that. But I want to kind of go in a different route right now.
I'm open. Hit me.
So I want to acknowledge that a very, very common symptom for menstruators who already have some sort of mood dysregulation, who tend to feel overwhelmed or depressed or anxious or anything like that. It is very, very, very common that all of those symptoms amp up the week before you get your period.
Hell yes, they do.
And
Mine don't. Only Josh thinks they do.
I know mine do. My phrase usually is, this pisses me off for the whole month. And I just don't say anything until now. So, it isn't because of PMS that I'm getting irate about things that it doesn't bother me every other time. I'm still angry about it for the rest of the month. But now
Now I'm saying something.
you're going
willing
to get
to say
it.
something.
Right.
Yeah, that could be. And we have to listen to our bodies and listen to ourselves. When things like that come up, we have to honor that. But PMS is probably the most common complaint of menstrual cycles. And I just want to say, just because it is common does not mean that it's normal. And for example, high blood pressure is not an unfortunate side effect of having a heart.
Right.
Cramps are not an unfortunate side effect of having a menstrual cycle.
Wow.
It's odd. It may be common, but it is not normal.
But it's considered normal.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
But let's change the wording.
All right.
Instead of normal, it's just
common. It's a common dysfunction.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Common dysfunction, because it is not normal, and not every woman has it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's dysfunctional.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Something's wrong.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It is very, very common, though, for the first 10 years after your first period, menarche. And it is very, very common to have PMS symptoms the last 10 years before menopause. And the window in between is
My
usually
poor husband.
pretty good.
You picked the wrong time to marry me.
He should have got you 20 years ago.
You should have. When I was a little more balanced. All right. I'll let him know that later. Probably in about a week and a half.
He probably already knows and agrees without you saying.
Maybe. All right. So the pendulum swings is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, PMS, just because it's common, it's not normal. But it happens so often that we have learned how to live with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
PMS can include all kinds of things like cramps, cravings, acne, irritability,
Sleepiness. I get exhausted.
Some people can't sleep at all.
Oh.
Yeah. So sleep disturbances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like racing mind types of things. I get a lot.
What about you, Tammy?
I don't have any.
None.
I don't have PMS.
My boobs hurt so bad.
Boobs hurt.
Like
I don't.
really
When
bad.
I was younger, I had a lot of that stuff. I don't. Josh says that he can tell I'm a little more testy right before my period. I don't really feel like I am, but he perceives me that way, so I probably am.
Maybe you still have 10 years before menopause, sister.
Pam, I liked you until you said that.
You get a lot more gold stars.
You were also always an overachiever.
Yeah, well, I'd like to be an underachiever where this is concerned.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh, man.
But you are one of the lucky ones if you don't have PMS symptoms.
I really don't feel like I
Yeah.
do. Again, when I was younger, I did. My boobs would hurt really bad. I don't even have that. Hardly at all. If I do, it's almost noteworthy because it almost never happens.
Yeah.
The older I get, the less symptoms I've had. I feel like, even like menstrual cramps, most of the time I don't have them. When I do, they can be pretty sharp though. So it's kind of an all or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to pay
I'm gonna
attention
have
to your
pay-
diary
Exactly.
and figure out when I have those really sharp cramps, what happened that month.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
short cycles are another really common symptom that people experience. And usually it's because they had an anovulatory cycle, which means they did not ovulate. And the bleeding of what I would guess as a menstrual educator is that the first time you bled, you hadn't ovulated and your body was
Shedding.
heavy. It just needed to release a little bit.
It was a lot though. It was an 8-day period.
Is that okay? We'll talk about whether that's normal for you on a different day. But,
We're going to dissect Tammy's period next episode. Tune in.
Lisa does like to dig and pick at me
do.
quite a bit.
I do.
So this
Let's
is
get
just
below
another.
the surface.
Well, heavy bleeding is another thing that people don't know. Who tells you what heavy bleeding even means?
What
How
is
do you even
normal?
know?
Right.
So if you're bleeding, and by the way, it's not all blood. It's mostly water and endometrial tissue, the tissue that grows on the inside of your uterus.
Yeah.
It's really very little blood.
So that's very interesting. And this is going to be TMI. But I, several years ago, had started using like a Diva cup to manage my, products.
Love cups. We love cups.
Yes. I really appreciated it for a long time. And I could tell when I, go to the bathroom and I dispose of the menstruation that it wasn't blood.
No.
Like all blood. You can tell in the cup. You can't necessarily tell on a tampon or a pad, but I could see that.
Cups are really great for being able to know what your flow actually is and if any clotting is healthy, you can see it. You can actually see it that way.
This is again too much, but you can also tell the coloring of your period as opposed to on a pad. It just looks bright red or whatever, but in the cup it looked different.
So as soon as you're collecting menstruation in a pad or a tampon, especially pads, it's oxidizing. And so you're not getting a true depiction of the color of the fluid, but we want it to be bright red. If it's other colors, if it's brown, if it's black, if it's pink,
like bluish,
if it's yellow. I've never seen blue except for in the Always commercials.
We're going to dissect Lisa's period in the next episode after my dissection.
Those would all be reasons to go talk to your doctor.
Fantastic.
We want it.
I mean, never mind.
No, that's important to talk about. Don't keep things secret when they seem a little off. That's definitely when you need to talk to somebody. But heavy bleeding is usually about 16 pads or tampons in a cycle or more. In a whole cycle. So if you're the average...
Now I have to keep track of that too.
I know.
I'm just going to leave a pen and pad in the bathroom because
I need to take a leave from work.
I know, this is a full-time job keeping track of myself.
It should be. You are you. You are yours. Yeah.
Golly.
But heavy bleeding can come from so many different causes. And because we don't talk about what heavy bleeding actually is, that usually is something that you need to talk to your doctor about. Because it could be endometriosis, it could be PCOS, it could be fibroids, it could be so many different things. So if you're bleeding, if you're using more than 16 pads or tampons, this does not count liners, just pads or tampons,
that makes sense.
Or you're emptying your cup more than 10 times, then that's heavy bleeding, and that's a sign of either systematic inflammation or a hormone imbalance.
That's very interesting. So do you think, well, you know this answer, so I'm just going to ask you, does heavy bleeding often correspond with high cramping?
It depends.
Okay.
It really all depends on the cause for heavy bleeding. Cramping is often something different. So cramping is often just an issue with the contractions of smooth muscles. So
Okay.
that's a little different.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot more to talk about, though.
I think that you are going to be a common guest.
If you're willing,
Yeah.
we'd love to have you back.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your game?
Yes.
You're the first one to sit in this spot of the recording studio. You can make it homey back there. So, what are some of the last bits of information that you want to share with folks who are, really diving into this and learning more about themselves? Number one, brain health, right? I've learned a lot about that already, that there's a connection. Number two, pay attention, right? Pay attention not only to when your period is taking place, because that is not even close to the start of, the process, and write it down so that you can go back, because you're not going to remember,
Correct.
Everything that takes place in a month.
And going from month to month, you can find your own patterns, find out what's normal for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Give me a couple more takeaways here.
So we talked about brain health, but I just want to go into the basics. So really easy things to do to take care of your brain. Eat healthy.
Yeah.
No fried foods, no excess sugars, no carbonation.
Which is what you want during the PMS cycle.
I know, that's tough. But if you break it down I really want chips, no, you just want something crunchy. So find some carrot coins or something that you can eat that give you that crunch. So eat well, sleep well.
What if you can't?
We need 8 hours of sleep. I don't know anyone who can't unless it's a medical issue, which brings us back to all of this.
I guess so. I used to sleep like a rock. I had no problem sleeping. Now I'm up routinely in the middle of the night for more than an hour.
Well, and I think one of the things that we'd really like to dive into, vested interest for both of us, is because we're in that phase of life where, people say, well, this is just part of the process. You have to expect that you're going to be waking up in the middle of the night. You should expect hot flashes. You should expect, blood clots and periods that
bleeding.
Okay, well, just because it's common does not make it normal.
Thank you. I think that's the biggest thing to take out of this.
That is the biggest takeaway, I think. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think next time we'll talk a lot more about how hormones change as we age, and we'll talk more about self-care.
I love that.
And how to take care. But I think what we've laid down today is a really good mind-blowing start.
I would agree.
My mind is blown.
Absolutely.
Thank you so very much for joining us. I have been waiting for this just excitedly for myself personally, but I know that, like we've said 1,000 times, we are not alone.
Yeah, no, we're not.
I'm a pretty intelligent person, but I knew nothing about this. So thank you for sharing.
Right. I mean, it's not like I talk to people about my periods all the time, but on occasion, girlfriends will talk about things, especially as we're getting older. We are talking a little more. Nobody has said anything about any of these things.
I don't think people know.
That's my point.
It's
so if we didn't know,
right,
and we are talking to people, and nobody brings it up, nobody knows this stuff.
Right. Well, let's start talking about it, sister.
All right. Riding Sidesaddle. That's what we're doing. We're talking about all sorts of good stuff.
We're on it. Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Till next time. See ya.